Congressman Paul, you say that the federal government should stay out of people's personal habits. You say marijuana, cocaine, even heroin should be legal if states want to permit it. You feel the same about prostitution and gay marriage. Question, sir, why should social conservatives in South Carolina vote for you?
Madam Speaker, I have a few questions for my colleagues. What if our foreign policy of the past century is deeply flawed and has not served our national security interests? What if we wake up one day and realize that the terrorist threat is a predictable consequence of our meddling in the affairs of others and has nothing to do with us being free and prosperous? What if propping up repressive regimes in the Middle East endangers both the United States and Israel? What if occupying countries like Iraq and Afghanistan and bombing Pakistan is directly related to the hatred directed toward us? What if someday it dawns on us that losing over 5,000 American military personnel in the Middle East since 9/11 is not a fair trade-off for the loss of nearly 3,000 American citizens, no matter how many Iraqi, Pakistani, and Afghan people are killed or displaced? What if we finally decide that torture, even if called enhanced interrogation technique, is self-destructive and produces no useful information, and that contracting it out to a third world nation is...
Another question about electability. Do you have any, sir? There's always the question as to whether or not you are in fact viable. Your differences with the Republicans with the rest of the Republicans on this stage has raised questions about whether or not you can actually win the Republican nomination, sir.
Well, we've only had 2 little primaries so far, so it's pretty premature to decide which one is going to be the candidate. But, you know, when you think about it, if you measured everything I've ever said, every vote I've ever taken against the Constitution, you know, I'm a strict constitutionalist. Are you suggesting the Republicans should write me off because I'm a strict constitutionalist? I'm the most conservative member here. I have voted, you know, against more spending and waste in government than anybody else. So you're suggesting that I'm not electable and the Republicans don't want me because I'm a strict fiscal conservative, because I believe in civil liberties? Why should we not be defending civil liberties? And why should we not be talking about foreign policy that used to be the part of the Republican Party? Mr. Republican Robert Taft didn't even want us to be in NATO. And you're saying now that we have to continue to borrow money from China to finance this empire that we can't afford? Let me see if I get this right. We need to borrow $10 billion from China, and then we give it to Musharraf, who's a military dictator who overthrew an elected government, and then we go to war, we lose all these lives promoting democracy in Iraq. I mean, what's going on here? And you're saying that this isn't appealing to Republicans? Where did this come about? I think this is a Republican message. I defend the platform. It used to say we got rid of the Department of Education. It doesn't say that. Now, we as Republicans went and doubled the size of the Department of Education. So where have we gone? I think we've lost our way. But then the insinuation that I am less Republican because of that?
Congressman, thank you very much. Let's take one more break. We'll be right back with one of the most contentious issues of the day. Congressman Paul, let me follow up with you for just 30 seconds. Is it worth going to war to prevent a nuclear weapon in Iran?
No, it isn't worthwhile. And the only way you would do that is you would have to go to the Congress. We as Commander-in-Chief aren't making the decision to go to war. You know, the old-fashioned way, the Constitution, you go to the Congress and find out if our national security is threatened. And I'm afraid what's going on right now is similar to the war propaganda that went on against Iraq. You know, they didn't have weapons of mass destruction, and it was orchestrated, and it was, to me, a tragedy of what's happened these last 10 years, the death and destruction, $4 trillion in debt. So no, it's not worthwhile going to war. If you do, you get a declaration of war, and you fight it, and you win it, and get it over with.
Thank you, Congressman.
Congressman Paul, my spidey sense tells me we have a debate about to get launched here. I know you have an opinion you'd like to weigh in.
Yes, torture is illegal, and by our laws, it's illegal by international laws.
How do you define torture, sir?
Well, waterboarding is torture, and many other things. It's illegal under international law and under our law. It's also immoral, and it's also very impractical. There's no evidence that you really get reliable evidence. Why would you accept the position of torturing 100 people because you know one person might have information? And that's what you do when you accept the principle of torture. I think it's uncivilized and have no practical advantages, and is really un-American to accept on principle that we will torture people that we capture.
And
Major, I have to weigh in on this. I have to say something.
Young ages.
No, essentially not, but they have to be a referee. If people are doing things that hurt other people, yes. But if you embark on instituting a society where
Foreign policy is... Speaker Gamage caused something of a stir overnight in the Middle East with comments he made in an interview with the Jewish channel, which he called the Palestinians an invented people. And I just wondered, Congressman Paul, if I can start with you. Do you agree with that characterization that the Palestinians are an invented people?
No, I don't agree with that, and that's just stirring up trouble. And I believe in a non-interventionist foreign policy. I don't think we should get in the middle of these squabbles, but to go out of our way to say that so-and-so is not a real people. Technically and historically, yes, under the Ottoman Empire, the Palestinians didn't have a state, but neither did Israel have a state then, too. But this is how we get involved in so many messes, and I think it just fails on the side of practicing a little bit of diplomacy, getting ourselves into trouble, mentioning things that are unnecessary. The people in those regions should be dealing with these problems. We shouldn't be dealing with these things, but historically, under the Ottoman Empire, that is technically correct. But to make these decisions and deciding what the settlement is going to be should be the people that are involved. This idea that we can be the policemen of the world and settle all these disputes, I mean, soon we'll have to quit because we're flat-out broke, but we cannot continue to get into these issues like this and getting ourselves into more trouble. Speaking.
Republican presidential candidate Texas Congressman Ron Paul joins me now from New Hampshire, where he is campaigning. Congressman Paul, welcome. Good to have you here today.
Thank you, Martha. Good to be with you.
You know, we take a look at the markets, just opened up, down about 100 points as we speak. We saw what happened yesterday. What do you think a president should do in this moment?
Well, at this moment, you can't do things in one moment, but a plan or a program has to be to redirect the economy. We have to get rid of the conditions that created our monster of this recession that is ongoing. And that means you have to address regulatory policy, monetary policy, tax policy, deficits problems, and also to get back to normal, you have to liquidate debt. If an individual or a company or a country gets in debt over their head, they never get growth again until they deal with the debt, because the debt consumes a nation. Our productivity is down, but we have to worry about the debt, and just paying off the debt means the only way we can do that is just creation of new money, and this creates so many more new problems.
Story coming out of Washington has lit up Twitter and Facebook. Congressman Ron Paul and Barney Frank will be introducing a bill that would end marijuana prohibition. A short time ago, Texas Republican Ron Paul spoke with me about exactly what he's advocating. Take a listen.
Well, removing it from the jurisdiction of the federal government and allow the states to regulate it like they would alcohol. And, this seems to be strange for a lot of people, but, I'm only going back to 1937, where that's the way it was handled. The states always did this, and I'm motivated strongly also because the states legalize it for the use of medicinal purposes, and it is helpful for people who have cancer and are getting chemotherapy. So this is not a huge radical idea. It's something that was legal for a long, long time, and the war against marijuana causes so so much hardship and accomplishes nothing. So I would say that marijuana, as far as causing highway problems, is minuscule compared to alcohol, yet we knew prohibition of alcohol was very bad. So this is just getting back to a sensible position on how we handle difficult problems. And for me,
ideas have changed. There were a lot of people, and that was the start. We had a lot of encouragement there. And then also, since that time, we have found that young people love the ideas of freedom and the Constitution.
Do you fear Iran intruding on the whole Persian Gulf?
If the United States, as you asked for in the debate last week, left the region, do you fear that?
Well, I fear that they might want to do that, but I think our policy is leading to that. Everything that we do enhances the Ahmadinejad crowd in Iran. There's a dissenting force in Iran, and everything we do to undermine that government, we have our own CIA over there now trying to undermine that government. In doing that, we bring all their people together, so the ones who want to dissent and oppose him are, they lose their power to do so. So I would say our policy is doing everything conceivable to enhance Iran. Just the whole invasion of Iraq has helped Iran.
Well, Congressman Paul, you say that the federal government should
stay out of people's personal habits.
You say marijuana, cocaine, even heroin should be legal if states want to permit it. You feel the same about prostitution and gay marriage. Question, sir, why should social conservatives in South Carolina vote for you for president?
Well, they will if they understand my defense of liberty is the defense of their right to practice their religion and
say their prayers where they want and
practice their life. But if you do not protect liberty across the board, it's a First Amendment type issue. We don't have a First Amendment so
that we can talk about the weather.
We have the First Amendment so we can say very controversial things. So for people to say that, yes, we have our religious beliefs protected, but people who want to follow something else or a controversial religion, you can't do this. If you have the inconsistency,
then you're really not defending liberty.
But there are strict rules on freedom of choice of this sort, because you can't
hurt other people,
you can't defame other people. But yes, you have a right to do things that are very controversial. If not, you're going to end up with government that's going to tell us what we can eat and drink and whatever. It's amazing that we want freedom to pick the future, our future in a spiritual way, but not when it comes to our personal habits.
But Senator, are you suggesting that heroin and prostitution are an exercise of liberty?
Well, I probably never used those words. You put
those words someplace.
But yes, in essence, if I leave it to the states, it's going to be up to the states. Up until this past century, for over 100 years they were legal. What you're inferring is, what? If we legalized heroin
tomorrow, everybody's going to use heroin.
How many people here would use heroin if it was legal? I bet nobody would put the hand, oh yeah,
I need the government to take care of me.
I don't want to use heroin, so I need
these laws.
As quickly as possible, we'd want to get rid of the income tax. We'd want to get rid of the Federal Reserve System. We'd want
getting big government off the back of the little guy is the message Ron Paul preaches to students at colleges and high school.
Freedom of choice, as presidential candidate Ron Paul, shouldn't just be restricted to choices he approves of. He opposes things like prostitution and drug use and says the federal government has no business trying to stop we legalize marijuana. Okay, no.
Against marijuana causes so much hardship and accomplishes nothing.
The war against marijuana causes so much hardship and accomplishes nothing. The war against marijuana causes so much hardship and accomplishes the war against marijuana causes so much hardship and accomplishes the war against marijuana causes so much hardship and accomplishes nothing.
That would protect children from the use of these drugs, but under the Constitution, the president and the federal government would